Well, as good role models, we teach our students to stick up for what they believe in, to stand up to people who they don't think are doing or making ethical decisions, and as a teacher, modeling that behavior with my colleagues when I feel that a colleague of mine may or may not be making ethical decisions. The dilemma for me is how to act in that situation so that I present both a good model for my students, but also maintain a friendly and productive, professional work environment for the teachers that I work with.
Earlier this year, I was in my classroom and students were working on things after school, and so they were having conversations with themselves, not with me. I was doing something different, and they were working on group work, and I overheard disturbing things that had gone on in school. And there were issues of cutting and issues of sexual activity in school, and so I did feel the need to report it, and so I reported it to a supervisor.
Was it sexual harassment activities, or was it?
No, it was sexual activity. Engaging in sexual activity in school.
Another a gray area for me is the issue of neglect, because there are students in my class who I don't worry for their immediate physical safety, or I don't worry that they're being abused at home, but I do worry that what needs to happen at home, is not happening, or students not bathing, or those issues, because it's not clear whether or not those are mandatory reporting issues. And so that for me is a much grayer area, because it also plays more into my values as an individual, my assumptions about what a home life should look like, what my expectations are, which may differ from what parents' expectations are, families' expectations are. And again, I would never want to put a child in more trouble than they're already in by reporting something that was actually didn't necessitate it.
Right. We have to be very careful that we're not imposing our own cultural biases on our kids, and always have to respect the cultures that they come from, and let that govern the way that we report.
One of the things that the courts have said is that you have to be allowed to make the rules that allow for an orderly and civil experience for everyone, and an orderly environment. But at the same time, you are actually, as a teacher, you are a part of the government, so you actually do have to abide by the First Amendment. You can't just make any rule in your class. But there are the limits that you are allowed to, that you are that fall in your favor.
To be specific, we're talking about profanity, and we're talking about threats and defamation of other kids. Those are the kinds of things that we have rules against. But I encourage above all things in my classroom, critical thinking and kids coming up with their own opinions and not becoming regurgitators of something else that they've heard. Expressing their feelings and expressing their opinions is very valued, but it's up to us to teach them how to do that in a way as to not offend others within your community.
So I'm just wondering if there's a fight, and there have been several fights while I've been a student teacher. What is my responsibility as a teacher? Do I get right in there? Do I step back, especially if they're bigger kids than I am?
One thing that's interesting that I've been taught, and I'll put that back to the panel to tell me if this is true or not, is that if I was breaking up a fight and a student got injured because of something that I did, maybe I pushed them out of the way, or they tripped over a desk or something like that, I could then be held liable for their injuries.
The safety of the children is the ultimate priority. However, you teaching in high school, you may not have that comfort level. By and large, just get help. and make sure you get help as fast as you can. But I personally wouldn't suggest you jumping in the middle of it, because not only could you get hurt, but then, other things could happen as well.
Well, it makes me wonder rules around being in your classroom, too. I mean, an adult be in the room at all times? There was a teacher next door who stepped out for a long period of time, and then there were chairs thrown and things going on, and so luckily nobody got hurt, but that would be a situation where I wonder, would she be held liable? But also, for not being in the classroom at all, there was no adult in that classroom. So
Yeah.
The best thing to do is to develop a good relationship with the teacher next door. And you say, I'm stepping out for a minute, can you keep an eye on the kids next door? Open your adjoining door or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the best way to cover yourself in terms of liability.
If you don't know, ask. If you're not sure, don't. Each district has a district attorney, and that person is always available to receive emails or calls. And generally, you can just, email them about, these are some of the questions that I have, and they'll send you a bunch of information or links to different websites. But my personal advice to anyone is to be proactive and search out the information. Don't wait for the information to come to you. There are tons of people you can start with in your building. There are senior teachers. There's a district attorney, as I mentioned, and there's your union rep. There are tons of different ways and mediums to get this information. And if we're about modeling and we're always telling kids to be proactive about seeking help, then part of that is what we need to do as educators as well, and go seek out the information.